the camera in my hands. Then it looked at me. I was 16 when this happened. I'm 33 now, and just thinking about it still makes my stomach knot up like it's about to drop. Not a daydream kind of fear. I mean, cold, locked up terror.
Relationships can be hell. Some end in heartbreak. Others end in shadow figures, blood pacts, and broken rosaries. Ah, love. Let's begin with Melby. Get out.
I have mental health problems. I have schizophrenia. And I was dating this guy, and I've been on medication and treatment for a long time. But he lived in an apartment that he suspected to be haunted, and his roommate is a Satanist. His roommate had a lot of satanic books, and his friend group was also full of Wiccans and people that would do different rituals and seances in his apartment. One day, me and him were fighting, and I hear this voice just telling me to get out. And it was so scary. It just kept, and it sounded like his friend's voice, but his friend wasn't home. And it just kept saying, Melby, get out, get out, get out. And then things started to fall over on their own. I saw a shadow. And also, I saw that my ex was telling me if I wanted to do a blood pact with him. I told him no, because I don't do those things. I believe in God. So as soon as I told him that, I saw that the broom literally moved from one side of his apartment to the other all on its own. And I know that I wasn't having an episode when I was seeing these things or hearing these things, because I've been on treatment for a while, and I've been on medication, and I've been controlling my symptoms. He would come to my house. Well, my ex, when we were together, he would come to my house a few times, and I had my house blessed by my pastor. But after he came to my house a couple of times, I started seeing shadows, and I think he was trying to do some kind of witchcraft to me as well, because I had a rosary. Even though I'm not Catholic, I'm Christian, but my friend gave me a rosary, and when I broke up with him, my rosary just broke out of nowhere. It just broke all on its own. I didn't touch it or anything. So I think that might have been a sign.
Melby's still around, still doing her best to live a normal life. You can tell she's trying to move forward. Church posts, healing posts, positivity. But she told us something off the record, something she didn't include in the audio. She said sometimes late at night, she still hears it. The voice. Yeah, that one. The voice. Same one from that apartment. Same tone, same words.
You know, when the broom starts moving on its own and someone whispers your name from an empty room, maybe don't do the blood pact. Just a thought. If you creeps are enjoying what you're hearing and still have the nerves to keep listening, how about feeding the algorithmic abyss with a like, a share, a comment, and a nice little subscription? We don't bite, but we do watch. Oh, and if you're into cryptids, you'll want to stay till the end. Trust me, the forest has eyes. Now then, let's thaw into our next tale, shall we? A winter storm, a brother who vanishes into the dark, and something that might have followed them back. This one's called The Ice Storm Visitor. Submitted by Megan.
You ever feel like a memory isn't just something you carry, but something that carries you? I hadn't thought about that winter in years. Not until the power went out last month during a cold snap, and I found myself standing at the top of the stairs again, staring into the hallway that looked too familiar in all the worst ways. And just like that, it was back, 22 years ago, like it had been waiting. I was 11 when we moved. My parents had just relocated us from North Syracuse to Baldwinsville. I didn't understand why back then, just that we had packed our whole lives and landed in a house that felt too big, too quiet, and too far from everything I knew. Then the ice storm hit. Then the power went out across the neighborhood. For days it stayed off. No lights, no heat, just candles flickering on the end tables, blankets stacking like armor, and the occasional sound of ice cracking branches off trees behind the house. That second night, the house felt hollow, like the winds were listening. I remember walking in the middle of the night with this strange tightness in my chest, like I was already bracing for something before I even knew what. My eyes opened to find my brother's bed empty. He was older, always got up to use the restroom at night, but something about the stillness in the room made me feel like he hadn't just stepped out. Like, for instance, the blankets on his bed weren't crumpled. His pillow had gone cold. It didn't feel like he'd just left. It felt like he'd disappeared. I whispered his name. Ryan. No answer. I slid out from under the blankets and looked toward the hallway, but the darkness outside my door was thick, pressing, almost alive. It wasn't just the absence of light. It looked occupied, like something could be standing 5 feet away, staring, and I wouldn't know it until it breathed. I thought about crossing the darkness to find him. I really did, but the moment my foot touched the floor, I froze. My body tensed up like a rubber band stretched too far. Every instinct I had told me to pull back, get away from that hallway. So, I crawled back into bed, pulled the covers tight, and tried to convince myself it was just the cold getting to me. And then I saw it. There was something standing in the room, not moving, just there between the two beds. A tall shape, heavy fabric hanging from the shoulders, a hood pulled over its head. I couldn't make out its face, but it wasn't a blur. It had edges, a mass, a presence, like it had stepped forward out of the dark itself. It lifted its hands, pulled the hood back. Still, no face, but I didn't need to see one to know it was watching me. That part I felt deep, behind the ribs. Its stare wasn't warmth, it was a pressure, a weight that made my lungs forget what they were there for. I just cried. Quiet and hot and uncontrollable. My body was already reacting before my brain caught up. Then the bedroom door creaked open. A flashlight beam swept across the carpet and my mom came in. She knelt by my bed, pulled a blanket down from my face, and asked what was wrong. I pointed, shaking, trying to get the words out. She didn't see anything. She called for my brother. He answered from downstairs, said he'd gone to the bathroom and didn't want to come back through the hallway in the dark. We all slept in the living room that night. Me, Ryan, and my mom, bundled near the fireplace, the only place in the house with any warmth left. I didn't sleep. I stared at the foot of my stairs, waiting. The next morning, everything looked normal again. Blankets on the couch, melted candle wax on the coffee table. No footprints on the floorboards in my room. Nothing out of place. My mom asked if I remembered what I saw. I nodded, but I didn't want to talk about it anymore. Not after the light came back. She told me sometimes dreams feel more real when the house is that quiet, that cold. I didn't argue with her, but I never said it was a dream either, because I still don't know. And that's the part that's followed me.
Memories are strange, aren't they? Sometimes they haunt you quietly from under the bed. Other times, they wear a hood and watch. Now, I promised our cryptid creeps something special. And oh, this one's juicy. Clawed hands, jet black eyes, and a teenager with a camera who almost captured something the rest of us have only heard about in hushed whispers. Our final tale of the night comes from Dustin Starnes. He had his finger on the trigger and nearly caught something that shouldn't exist. If you think Bigfoot's just a campfire story, well, this is Finger on the Trigger.
I had the camera in my hands. Then it looked at me. I was 16 when this happened. I'm 33 now, and just thinking about it still makes my stomach knot up like it's about to drop. Not a daydream kind of fear. I mean, cold, locked up terror. But here's the part that messes with me. I had my camera. I could have taken the shot. That shot. Anyway, back then I was in high school and just started getting into photography. Took a class as an elective, figured I'd try to be artsy or whatever. But I didn't expect it was how I'd get into it. I grew up fishing and running around the woods in South Florida. Being out there just felt natural. So the moment I picked up the camera, I started dreaming about catching shots no one else could. Wildlife, swamps, the stuff still people forget is alive. That fall, my family took a trip out to the Myakka River State Park, east of Sarasota. I'd been out there, hell, at least 100 times by then. Probably more. I knew the trails better than some of the rangers, not even joking. So when we rolled in and set up for the first night, it was business as usual. Fire pit, marshmallows, mom's weird trail mix, the whole deal. But that first night, something just felt wrong. I had this feeling like something was watching us. Not just creepy night in the woods kind of thing, I mean eyeballs on you from deep in the dark. I didn't say anything though. I didn't want to sound like a wuss, especially since I was the only kid on the trip. Just me and my folks. The next morning, I got up early. Like, really early. Around 6. The sun was barely up. The park doesn't technically open until 8, but I knew they would never lay patrol that deep that early. I figured if I moved quiet, I could catch a deer or maybe even a bobcat before the real heat kicked in. I had my Canon hanging off my neck, prepped and ready. Battery full, card loaded, settings dialed in. I went solo, of course. No one else was up, and that's how I liked it. There's this trail I knew. One with an old wooden footbridge that crossed over a little creek, half swampy, half dry, depending on the season. That morning, the area was thick with tall grass and fog hugging the ground like something out of a dream. I remembered thinking, well, this is perfect lighting. And then I heard it. This grunt. Not a pig's grunt, not even close. It was deeper, heavier. You could feel it in your ribs. It wasn't loud, but it had weight. At first, I figured it was just hogs. You tend to hear that a lot out here. But the moment I stepped off the bridge and onto the trail again, I saw something in the reeds by the creek bed. At first, I truly thought it was a black bear. It was hunched over, dipping into the water like it was drinking or grabbing something. I raised my camera halfway, even blurry. That would have been a cool shot. But then it stood up and turned. And I swear on everything, my own life, my mom's, whatever you want, it wasn't a bear. It stood on its own 2 legs, not in a clumsy way like a bear when it tries to smell something. No, This thing stood. It had shoulders, arms longer than they should have been, and the head looked almost like a gorilla's, but thinner. Narrow snout. Its face, that's what gets me. The face was way too human. Oh, here, think gibbon meets gorilla, but meaner. Smarter, and the eyes, not glowing or anything dumb like that, just locked on me. Dark and still, like it was deciding. I froze. The camera dangled against my chest, and I actually felt it hit me. But I couldn't move. My brain was trying to figure it out. Like, what zoo animal escaped, and how is this real? And that's when I realized I had my shot. All I had to do was press the shutter. I didn't even need to focus, just click. My thumb reached, slow like a reflex, and that moment I touched the button, it moved. Gone. That thing took off faster than anything I'd ever seen on two legs. It didn't run. It launched. I barely caught the motion. It was just there 1 second and crashed into the tall grass the next, tearing through it like a truck. And then nothing. No sound, no breath. The creek was still again, like it had never been disturbed. That's when the fear caught up to me. Cold sweat, hands shaking, legs jelly. I turned and ran, hard. My boots slipped in the dirt, scraped up my knee, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back once. By the time I got to camp, I was soaking wet with sweat and breathing like I'd just outrun death. My dad looked at me like I was high. My mom thought I was a panther or a shadow or something. I tried to explain. Hell, I wanted to show them the photo, but I never got it. That part still pisses me off. We stayed the rest of the weekend, and I didn't go out on my own again. Barely slept, just laid there in the tent thinking about those eyes. That stare. Like it knew what I was about to do, and it chose to vanish. I never told anyone else outside my family. Never posted about it, didn't even write it down until now. Part of me hoped forgetting it would make it disappear. But it didn't, because a few years later, I saw him again. Not in Mayaca, but still in southern Florida.
If only he'd taken the shot. But then again, some things don't like to be caught on camera. They like to watch, to wait, to follow. If you made it this far, consider yourself lucky. And if you're hearing this from somewhere dark and quiet, maybe take a second look out your window, just in case something heard its name tonight. Like, comment, share, and, of course, subscribe. Or I'll be forced to tell the thing in the reeds where you sleep. It's already looking. Join us next week to peer once more past the pumpkin's glow.